Morning, everybody. Can you hear me? We've got 10:15. We'll go ahead and get started. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and to listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. Our first item is the agenda review. Do we have any questions, comments on the agenda? Okay, not seeing any. We have one other item on our work session. So it's the Lawduck Housing Amendments discussion of public input on page 2. And Gail Henriksen, our Community Development Director, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair Quila, and good morning, Commissioners. Today we're here to talk about the public input that we've received on the draft amendments to the zoning code that would help facilitate housing development at all price points. And so just as a little bit of history and background on the project, we started this process back in October last year, and that was at your board's direction to really look at our code and find potential changes that we could make that could possibly help spur housing construction across all areas of the market and all different types of product. So the amendments that we've proposed are going to be primarily focused on rural communities, and that's due mainly to the way the state's land use planning system is set up. And it really tries to shift urban development into urban growth boundaries, but also into our unincorporated communities where density can be a bit higher than on rural residential lands. So we had a public meeting back in January 17th of this year to get some additional public input. And then following that, we had another work session with your board in February, and your board gave us the go-ahead to put out the amendments for public comment. We did that on June 1st and had a public comment period from June 1st till July 21st. And then we also emailed and mailed notices to all the special districts that could possibly be affected by the amendment. So water districts, fire districts, school, diking districts, pretty much any special district in the county received a notice. So when we got our comments back, they're included in your board packet. There were some very specific areas that raised the most comment and areas of concern. Those related to having short-term rental caps in place if we move forward with the amendments. And your board has been working on those, and you have another work session scheduled for September 25th to start reviewing the draft ordinance. There were concerns raised about reducing minimum lot sizes when sewer is available from 7,500 square feet down to 5,000 square feet, which is basically a 50 by 100 foot lot. And in many of these areas, there are very old plats, and a lot of the property is already platted at 50 by 100 foot lots. There were some questions and concerns raised about increasing building height in the rural community commercial zone. Currently, the height limit is 35 feet, and staff had proposed moving that up to 45 feet in anticipation of possibly allowing multifamily development in the commercial zones. And then there was also concern about that fact that multifamily and manufactured home parks could possibly be allowed in the rural community commercial zone. There was concern about whether or not there might be enough infrastructure to support the people who live there, and that there might not be any commercial services in the commercial zone to support multifamily development. Probably one of the biggest concerns we heard from almost everyone was changing how we would process applications for duplex dwelling units. Currently, it's a conditional use, which is a $1,200 fee, and it requires a 10-day public comment period. Staff has proposed to change that to a type 1, which is basically an over-the-counter permit and does not have that mailed notice and public comment period. For triplexes, quadplexes, cottage clusters, multifamily, If it's in a residential zone, there would still continue to be that public comment period, but we would like to change that for a duplex and eliminate that public comment period. And then finally, there was a concern raised about a requirement that's specific to Arch Cape that requires a conditional use approval anytime that a new road or a road is constructed or a road is extended. And basically with road extensions and new road construction, road extensions are typically created when someone is extending a public right-of-way or a private right-of-way in an already existing platted right-of-way. And then subdivisions where new roads are being created completely are already subject to a public hearing. And so there would be a little bit of shift in how public input is obtained for a road extension, but not necessarily for a brand new road. So today, what staff is here for is to get some direction from your board on the following 3 questions. First of all, are you interested in having staff continuing to proceed with the proposed housing amendments? And then I would like to ask for some input about whether or not short-term rentals should be prohibited in duplex, triplex, and all of the multifamily dwellings. And then finally, based upon the public comment that you've received in your board packet, are there any additional revisions that you would like staff to make? So that is my very brief presentation today. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm here to enjoy your discussion and answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. Appreciate the presentation. And do we have some initial thoughts from the commission? Well, I appreciate the public comment that we've received, and I also appreciate your comments and responses, Gail. I think they're well thought out. I feel comfortable moving forward with what's been proposed. I don't see the need to make revisions, but I'm going to leave it up to the rest of the commission to weigh in. Commissioner Toyoka.
Thank you. I just had a question on the, allowing short-term rentals in duplex, triplex, quadplex. Now, part of the argument is that it's, short-term rentals are affecting neighborhoods. But what if there were developments created with quadplexes for that purpose, that would free up other housing? I mean, are we kind of getting into, like, say you want to develop something in Seaside where the old high school was, and they had, housing development within that area, and they wanted to designate short-term rental within, quadplexes. And that would help, defray some of those tourist activity to specific short-term rentals, and it would relieve short-term rental from traditional neighborhoods. If you put in those kind of restrictions, would it help or hinder, the density of short-term rentals in our residential neighborhoods? Long-winded question, but
Yeah, and I'm not sure I have an answer for you, Commissioner Toyoka. The housing would be going in traditional neighborhoods, so potentially those impacts would continue to be seen in terms of possibly traffic congestion or things like that. And I really don't know. I'd have to do some research to see if anybody's looked at that issue and at what findings they might have.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Good question. Any other comments? Commissioner Webb?
Sorry for my lateness. I had trouble getting on today. First of all, I think there's just a phenomenal amount of work reflected here in this submission, and I really commend you and your staff, Gail, for all of your hard work with this. It seemed to me that it was kind of unusual. Well, I don't know how unusual, but it was striking to me that the vast preponderance of the comments were in very specific small areas of the county. And I wondered a little bit if that had anything to do with the way that we solicited the comments, but it certainly seemed that the the folks who were notified about this covered the entire county, so I don't, you know, I guess I'm just a little saddened that we didn't have more comments from the rest of the county outside of the Southwest. But because I think that a lot of your suggestions for those other zones were really very, very good and met a lot of the criteria that I think the state certainly, and I think all of us are looking for sort of mid-level housing. I did wonder if did you all by any chance contact especially the water systems, the various water systems that exist out there? Did you all contact them to find out what their present capacity was?
So we did not ask Commissioner Webb specifically for capacity, but we mailed and emailed when we had an email contact, every water district to notify them that these changes have been posted for public comment and an opportunity to review. We notified not only the water districts, but the fire districts, school districts, diking districts, sanitary districts, hospital districts, any registered special district in the county got a notice, and that's required by Oregon administrative rules. The only contact we had back from the districts, we had a lot of questions from the Arch Cape Sanitary and Water Districts, and then Falcon Cove Domestic Water District submitted formal written comments. And I think I heard back from one fire department with some questions.
Okay, but there was no effort made to talk about capacity in terms of especially of water and sanitation.
No, we notified the district specifically so that they could tell us if they had concerns about capacity.
Okay.
So we did not ask each district specifically to provide their capacity to us.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. I would not support the issue of having in some of these areas having some of these multiplexes go to STRs. I would not support that at all. I think that our STRs need to be highly restricted. And the last thing we need to be doing is providing housing that is affordable or mid-level housing as STRs. I think if anybody wants to do that, then they can come to us with a proposal to build a Salishan or some other kind of a specific facility like that. I think you've really done a terrific job of identifying the potentials here, and I really, really support, I think, almost everything that you've done here. I guess I have a couple of other just kind of questions. I don't know, Gail, whether you and I have had this conversation before, but in my experience as a planning consultant, the cottage cluster development issue in Oregon just hasn't, well, excuse me, in Clatsop County, just has not taken off. And it's one of those things that I have tried to work with for a couple of clients. And it's just very hard to achieve the way the law is written. It's highly dependent on topography, as all cluster developments really are. And so it's we keep trying it. and you know, what I'd love is for somebody to come up with kind of what we used to call a PUD for smaller houses. And I also think that the 900 square foot is not realistic. Even for single retired people, often, I mean, I live in such a place, and I'll tell you, it's not enough. And so for permanent housing for people. The other, the big question, I guess, I think this is something that that is very, very important to our need for a variety of affordable housing. And I think you've done a terrific job of coming up with suggestions. And I really, really commend your work. I'm really very supportive of this whole thing. I'm sure we could argue about square footages in certain zones, but in general, I think it's really terrific, and I think it needs to proceed in due course. That means quickly. So thanks so much. I think it's really a terrific body of work. Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
Commissioner.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other comments? Okay, so are we comfortable on moving forward as proposed? Gail, do we have anything else that you need, any other direction you need from us?
No other direction, and we will be scheduling this then for the October Planning Commission agenda, and then 2 hearings before your board at the end of October and then your November meeting. And thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you very much, Gail. Okay, do we have anything else on the agenda this evening? This afternoon, I mean, or the morning, this morning?
Okay.
Jeez, what time of day is it? County Manager?
Nothing from me today. I've been under the weather, everybody. So those of you that have been trying to get a hold of me, thanks for your patience. And I'm feeling better every day. So
Glad to hear you're feeling better. Okay, well, Commissioner Toyoka.
Hey, thank you. Just questions. We have county manager on this, the FEMA BIOP on the pre-implementation measures. I know, the default would be submitting habitat assessments. Do we have any other new information as far as overlays and maps that you could email us so we can get even, study this even more before we have to start discussing, because I don't think anybody wants to prohibit development in the floodplain, because if the overlays are incorrect, we have to have some way to dispute incorrect overlays. But if we have that information, the current overlays, some of the modeling, then we can discuss about how we can require, I guess option 3 was the default for habitat assessments.
yes, Commissioner Toyoka, members of the board, we will be circling back to your board and talking about the FEMA BIOP and where we are. We continue to have discussions with FEMA and other impacted parties, and so we will do that again. So in fact, I think we have the FEMA flood map overview scheduled for the August 14th work session. So
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just concerned about that because, like I said, again, if they have the mapping incorrect, then we could be, putting an undue pressure on our residents of the county that, that they have to provide engineering, they have to provide the expense, the time to disprove an incorrect map. So I must want to make sure we review that.
yes, we will come back to your board.
Thank you. Yeah, we're trying to do affordable housing. We don't need to pile on that's things that aren't necessary.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Thank you, County Manager. Well, this could be a record. If we can go ahead and adjourn here in 18 minutes, that's pretty fantastic. All right, have a good rest of your day. Take care.